are more than 19,000 registered sex offenders here in Ohio. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tracy Carlos. And despite state laws designated to protect the public from convicted rapists and child molesters, police admit they have no idea where hundreds of them are living. Tonight, a News Channel 5 investigation reveals an alarming loophole in sex offender laws. Here now is News Channel 5's Bob Jones with more on what he discovered.
In Ohio, registered sex offenders are required to report their addresses anywhere from once to 4 times a year. But we found many list an intersection as their address and call themselves homeless. The question is, are they really homeless or skirting the system to avoid detection? Summit County has one of the highest populations of registered sex offenders in Ohio, with nearly 1,000 of them. 31 of them claim to be homeless, and 9 of those are considered the worst of the worst, sexual predators or Tier 3 sex offenders.
The big fear is that they're registering as homeless to skirt the system because they're living somewhere they shouldn't be.
Inspector Bill Holland says the sex offenders are not breaking the law by listing an intersection as an address, and all of these men are current with their registration requirements. But at the same time, detectives charged with keeping tabs on the offenders rarely find them living at the cross streets.
The public should be very concerned.
Prosecutor Sherry Bevan Walsh calls it a loophole in the sex offender law.
Quite frankly, we don't believe that they're necessarily homeless. They are more likely to be what I would call transient.
On this day, Inspector Holland searches for Joshua Krunich, a Tier 3 sex offender who every 3 months registers 18th Street and Wilbeth Road in Akron as his address. But neighbors who live at that corner haven't seen Krunich.
I'm just going out and verifying his address. Have you seen him in the area?
Not knowing where Krunich lives is terrifying to this woman.
It scared the living hell out of me, and I freaked out.
In 2008, Krunich, a stranger, burst into her home and raped her.
I was asleep, so I had no clue who it was or what was going on, or he ended up biting me.
Krunich spent 3 years in prison and was released last year.
He could be right around the corner and me not know it.
State of Ohio versus Timothy Jackson Sr.
Timothy Jackson did 10 years in prison for a sex crime against a 4-year-old girl. When he got out, Jackson was required to register his address once a year.
I wasn't purposely dodging anything.
But prosecutors say Jackson did dodge the law by lying that he was homeless.
He gave an intersection because I don't think he knew exactly what to say when asked for an address. I mean, I think, he told me right from the start that he was homeless.
But detectives found Jackson living inside an Akron home, not an intersection. The sex offender was charged with failure to verify and sent back to prison.
On the failure to verify current address, I will impose a 36-month sentence in the Ohio State Penitentiary.
Many in this community find it alarming that it's so easy for sex offenders to disappear and not be tracked.
They're in the system on paper, but they're not in the system as far as being tracked and where their locations are.
I would like to see some way where we can come up with a means in which to make sure that the community is protected.
Someone else who would like to see better community protection, this rape victim.
You don't know what they're doing or who they could be hurting next.
On your side in Akron, Bob Jones, News Channel 5.
Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine issued a statement. He says the fact that some sex offenders are getting around the registration laws by claiming they are homeless is a serious problem. While it is ultimately up to local authorities to verify where each offender is living, we are working on a new effort that will help residents identify the homeless offenders who are really living in area neighborhoods. Well,